Just do the research. So many people, they have an idea, they get excited, and they automatically turn to marketing and how much money, and they start spending money on marketing. I would just highly, strongly suggest that you do the research. Identify, does your product or service have competition? Is it innovative? Look, see what other people are doing. What niche do you fit into? Where do your customers hang out at? Those are just some small things to really start thinking of before you just automatically start jumping into trying to make money.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups and 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the CEO and founder of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com and grab some time with us to chat. Now, today we have another great guest on the podcast, Erickson. And to give you a bit of an introduction, so Eric's always been a bit of an entrepreneur, always, in his words, look to make the quick buck, so to speak. And so in high school, was doing various jobs and was paying or wanting to pay for clothing or anything else he wanted. He had to figure out a way to pay for it. Got off to college and did the same thing. So was got into while I was in college of doing, I think, a bit of importing, exporting, and then also became an ad manager for what's now known as UVU here in Utah. And then out of the day while I was in college, got a call out of the blue, and somebody recommended him to another business to help them to figure out what they needed to do in order to improve the business. And so went down there, worked for the business, found that he loved it, and then after graduation, got into consulting and became on the board of several different companies, and then went from there. So that kind of builds his business, and he'll get into the more details from there. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on to the podcast, Eric.
Hey, thanks so much, Devin. It's good to be with you today.
Absolutely. So I gave kind of that quick high level run through of your journey, but let's dive in a bit and tell us a little bit, kind of starting as being a kid and an entrepreneur, and how your journey started from there.
Yeah, like you said, I grew up not having a lot of money, but a lot of people that I knew hung out with had a lot of money. And so in order for me to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, I would have to go do various activities to make some money. And I found out that I enjoyed selling things and making money. And I think I kind of caught that entrepreneurial bug, if you will. And that went into my high school and college years. And not really understanding or knowing what a business consultant or a coach was, that experience that you explained really opened up my eyes. I went from like this thought of always making money, wanting to make money, to actually having a passion for business and for helping others and seeing other people succeed. So it was quite a drastic 180 for me when in my later years of college.
So you did that, or you started out as a younger age as an entrepreneur, and so you went through high school and kind of figured out odd jobs or jobs in order to pay for things, and you went through college. And so how did you, while you're in college, get into, I think you started out as kind of doing importing, exporting, and kind of what was that, or how did you get into that?
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a couple of things that I usually, when a lot of things kind of fall into place, kind of like the stars align, so to speak, you wonder, okay, maybe I should be doing that. And so I got a magazine in the mail to be able to buy bulk product from Asia. And then I also met a guy that in the newspaper room in college. I was selling advertising. I met a guy, and his parents owned an import-export business. And so there's a bunch of different things that just happened. I was like, oh, maybe I need to try this. Maybe there's something in the stars and moon, wherever you want to come, whatever you believe, that's prompting me to try out import and export. And I made a lot of mistakes. Lost a little bit of money, but learned a lot the hard way of how to do import and export, and really enjoy doing it. Still do a fair small amount of it even today.
No, that definitely makes sense. So now you started in importing, exporting as a kind of way to further have spending money, support yourself during college and go through that. And then I think you also got into ad management a bit for UVU as well. And so as you're kind of going through and doing that, then how did you get, how did a friend or a business kind of out of the blue call you, and kind of how did you get connected up with them and working with them to help on their business, and kind of what prompted that, and kind of just give us a bit of details on there.
Yeah, it's super crazy. So yes, I was selling advertising. I was an advertising manager. I worked with, I don't know, hundreds of businesses in the Utah Valley at the time. And uh, and then when this call kind of came out of the blue, uh, it was interesting to me. I was kind of caught off guard, and I can't remember if I actually asked them specifically to tell me who that person was or who that business was that recommended me. But I think I was just so awe shock, or that I was more interested in saying, okay, this sounds like a great opportunity, and so I used a lot of my entrepreneurial experience, and picked up a few college books that I had been using throughout my college years, and went down there and analyzed this business, and I just kind of caught that bug, that just, like I told you, things kind of changed for me. It's like, wow, I really can help people. I can really help them to show them what they need to do in order to improve their business. And I just had this knack for being able to see patterns and processes and systems, and being able to explain them to people better, and help them to use patterns, processes, and systems to make their business more productive and efficient.
Hmm. So you started out, and so you did that you may have touched on it briefly, but what was it, if what was it, kind of that friend that connected you up with the business? Was it, hey, this guy is really sharp, he has experience, he can see patterns that others don't? Kind of what was it that kind of got you introduced or got you started with the friend introducing you to him?
Well, so I to this day, I don't really know who it was. I don't know if it was a friend. I don't know if it was because I was working literally probably almost 100 small businesses in the Utah Valley, in
Hmm.
Provo, Orem, that whole valley area. And so I don't know who that person was to this day. And I'm grateful to whoever they were,
Mhm.
because it was certainly a blessing in disguise for me.
Now you get into that, you say, okay, hey, this is fun, I enjoy it, it's my passion, it's my drive and my love type of a thing. So did you finish up college and then go from there? And then if so, kind of what did you do once you came out of college? Did you dive right into doing your own business and consulting and helping other businesses, or did you go work for a big business, or kind of what was that transition as you finished up your degree?
Yeah, so when I graduated, actually just a couple months before I graduated, I had put on this, they call them student fairs, and I would bring in 60 or so businesses from the valley into the what is now the Utah Valley University campus, and I ran into this one gal, and she was in telecommunications, and kind of one thing led to another, and uh, I got into telecommunications, and there was a business that was doing business with them, and they heard about me
Hmm.
and some of the things that I had done, and they brought me on. So it was a small telecommunications startup, and which allowed me to help them build their telecommunications platform, and also do a bunch of traveling around the United States and Europe. I learned how to do mergers and acquisitions. I learned how to, take smaller companies to multi-million dollar companies really quickly. I was able to rub shoulders with some big CEOs.
Hmm.
Club Car International. Who was the other big one? Motorola, and so it was a great experience.
So now, if and I may have missed it again, but were you doing this as an employee, as a contractor? So you coming out of college, you kind of know this is what's enjoyable, this is what's fun, this is what you want to do. But how did you get into that? Meaning, was it referral and you worked with one company that referred you to another company and did that on
Yeah.
a contract basis? Or was
Yeah.
it,
So
hey,
that
you
was,
started out with one company, they poached you away and you went and worked for another kind of, how did you, once you figured out your passion, figure out how to get clients and how to actually get business or build a business around that?
yeah. So that was referral. That was this gal that worked for this telecommunications company. She'd referred me to this other company, and they uh, saw what knowledge base experience I had already had, and they actually brought me on as the vice president of operations for their telecommunications startup. And that's been I would say most of my journey is, um, people just say, hey, I know Eric, I know he can do this, or I heard of this guy, his name is Eric, he knows so and so. You should probably talk to Eric and see if he could help you. And that's I've been very fortunate in that regard.
Hmm. So now you do that. So you start up your consulting business. You kind of get word of mouth. Hey, one person refers you to another. You keep doing that, along the way. Now, was it all, success? Hey, I just worked for one business. They referred me to another, and I was so busy I could never keep up with it. And I was always getting referrals as flooding it in, or was it that ebb and flow? And sometimes it was busy, sometimes it wasn't, or kind of how did that all work out to where, you're did it work out that it was just a success from day one and you're always building, or was there follies and downs and ups, or kind of how did that go?
I would definitely say there was follies. Follies is a good word to use. I wouldn't say that I was always super busy. There were a couple of economic things that happened along the way. Um, there was a time where I probably got my head a little bit bigger, probably a little bit of pride and a little bit of thinking that I could conquer the world, and ended up making a seven-figure mistake. And
Hmm.
so that yeah, so I would say overall, just to answer your question, yeah, it's been, I wouldn't say peaks and valleys, but it's definitely been some significant roadblocks and bumps in the road.
So now, because you mentioned, and definitely if it doesn't, don't feel comfortable, don't feel any obligation to answer the question, but, a seven figure, and maybe that's your biggest business mistake, and we should wait till then, but, a seven figure loss along the way is certainly one that's going to hurt a little bit, or a bit of an ouch to a business. So how did that come about, or how did you kind of find yourself in that situation?
Yeah, I got into the real estate business, and uh, I I guess the best way to put it is I was not paying attention. I was not paying attention to the people I was talking to, the people I was working with. I wouldn't say that at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, and I had to file bankruptcy, that I I went back and said, oh gosh, this is some things I need to change in my life. I need to change in my processes and systems and how I do business, so I don't let something like that happen again. But
Hmm.
I think that's it's been a lesson to me. And this was back in 2002 when it happened. But
Hmm.
certainly it was a business experience, something that I was able to eventually twist into positive.
No, definitely, it's one where you have to be careful that, as the old saying goes, you don't get over your skis, or you don't, think you know more than you do, or you get so excited about an opportunity, or a position that then you're not able to determine whether or not that's a good opportunity because you're so excited about it. So always having that ability to step back a bit and look at that opportunity always makes, or always, or is always a good path to take. So now you did that, and you've been doing that for a while. Is that basically in reality, you've been a consultant for the whole time? Is that what you're doing today? Have you transitioned to doing something else, or kind of give us a little bit of, bringing us forward to today a bit? How does that interplay with what you're doing now, or what are you doing now? And kind of how have you leveraged, or where you've come from?
Yeah, so I do a fair amount of consulting. I still do a fair amount of take on opportunities where a very large company would want me to come in and have a very specific task for me to do. Um, I currently do a fair amount of training and development for a Fortune 200 company that's in the media research business.
Hmm.
And then I also do the opposite of the spectrum. I guess I'm working with a lot of the small businesses and people who have that idea that they want to see if there's any validity or marketability for that product or service. I actually own another business as well. For the last 14 years, I've been manufacturing, distributing an organic pest control product made out of cedarwood oil.
Hmm.
And so we get orders through the internet, and then we fill those orders, and we have customers and all over the U.S., the United Kingdom, Australia, Japan, um, Mexico, Canada. So it's
Hmm.
been a great ride.
Well, sounds like it's been a great, or a very exciting and fun ride. So now looking a bit into the future. So you're saying, okay, that's kind of where you're at today, kind of where, what's led up to today. What do you look for as far as what's coming next in the future? Where are things planning or headed? Is, hey, I'm going to continue to chug along with what we're doing, going to expand, going to contract, going to retire, going to bring on more employees. Kind of where do you see the next 6 to 12 months headed for you?
Yeah, so I'll share my big ginormous goal with you.
Hmm.
By the end of the year, it's my hope to only be working 70 hours per month. It's
Okay.
something that I put a lot of thought to. I've examined it, researched it, but I'll have a bunch of different models of how I'm going to do it. But still wanting to be able to help those businesses that that need that experience. They need those tools that they don't have that I can help them with.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking about venturing into more. I just learned this word a few months ago. I guess they call it fractional. So fractional C-suite business. I don't know if you call it an industry or a business or just a thing. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of businesses out there that they want to hire a CEO part time, just to help
Hmm.
them with leadership, help them with strategic problem solving. And so I've been venturing into those into those roads as well.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds like a fun path to head down and a exciting direction to go in. And learning, a fractional, CEO, CTO, CFO, kind of doing that fractional economy, or fractional is one that's oftentimes for startups, small businesses, a great option. So you're saying, hey, we don't have that ability to bring someone on full time to keep them busy all the time, but we do need that assistance and that help. So let's take a fraction of someone's time that they can work for us while leaving them the ability to go and pursue other clients as well. So it sounds like a great idea. So, well, now as we wrap towards the end of the podcast, I always ask two questions at the end of each podcast. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so I guess I can go back to my $1.6 million mistake I made.
Hmm.
And again, that just comes to just not doing the research, not preparing, not knowing who you're doing work business with. Those are all, obviously should be common sense things, right?
Absolutely. No, I think that, that's definitely something that it's common sense, but it's also easy to, I would say is a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you get so excited or enamored with a given idea or given opportunity that you oftentimes don't do, take a step back, take a breather, explore the opportunity or explore what is all involved and whether or not you actually have the expertise, you actually know what you're doing and whether it's a good opportunity. So definitely makes sense to both the mistake to made and also learning from that. So, now, as we jump to the second question, which is if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or small business, what'd be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Just do the research. So many people, they have an idea, they get excited, and they automatically turn to marketing and how much money, and they start spending money on marketing. I would just highly, strongly suggest that you do the research. Identify, does your product or service have competition? Is it innovative? Look, see what other people are doing. What niche do you fit into? Where do your customers hang out at? Those are just some small things to really start thinking of before you just automatically start jumping into trying to make money.
No, I think that definitely makes sense, and that's a great point of advice. So, well, just as a reminder to the audience, and if we have the bonus question on this episode where we're going to talk a little bit about intellectual property and the top question there. So if you have interest there, make sure to stay tuned to the episode. But otherwise, as we wrap up, if people want to reach out to Eric, if they want to learn more about what you're doing, they want to hire you on a fractional basis, they want to be a client, a customer, an employee, an investor, your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out and find out more?
Yeah, my website, businessattitudes.com. That's attitudes with an S, and that is the best way to get a hold of me.
All right. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out and get a hold of you and find out more. Well, with that, and remember to stay tuned for the bonus question. But otherwise, for those in the audience that aren't interested in intellectual property, thank you for joining, and thank you for joining Eric. Now, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, feel free to go to inventiveguest.com. We'd love to chat with you and have you as a guest on the show. Inventiveguest.com to apply to be on the podcast. Two more things as a listener. One, make sure to click subscribe in the podcast player so you know when all of our awesome episodes come out. And two, leave us a review so other people can find out about the awesome episodes. Last but not least, if you ever need help with patents, trademarks, or anything else, go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat. So now with that, as we wrap up kind of your journey and talking a little bit about this, sharing a little bit about that, we get to have the fun bonus question where we get to flip the tables a bit. And rather than me asking all the questions, I get to take a chance to answer a question. So with that, I'll turn it over to you to ask your top intellectual property question.
Yeah, so I think this, and I hope this fits into the spectrum that we need to be talking about. But I would say one of the most common questions that I get is around patents.
Mm-hmm.
And people think that a patent needs to be like a physical product, something that like it has all the pieces together, and it's just one whole piece that they're going to sell to the marketplace. And I know that's not entirely true. So I guess my question for you is that what other things are patentable?
Yeah, no, and it's a good question. I would say, it almost is an easier question to ask what isn't patentable, in the sense that, you could almost go, and Supreme Court Justice, said or anything under the sun's patentable. And there's a lot of truth to that with a few exceptions. And so kind of what is or what isn't patentable, couple things that they just said are not patentable. Perpetual motion machine, patent office said that's not patentable. Can be done, or goes against the laws of physics. Now, if you can come up with one, I am sure they'll still grant you a patent, but you're going to have to definitely have your ducks in a row and be able to prove it. But otherwise, that one's not patentable. Another one that's not is a cure for cancer, and they just said, hey, well, cancer can be treated. There isn't a cure. Cure is impossible. Again, if you come up with a cure, I'm sure you can get a patent on it, but you're going to have to show that. So those are a couple. Beyond that, really almost anything, you're going to look at something that has to have a utility, a functionality. And so that's where when you're looking at patents as to what you want, what you can patent, think about, does it do something? Does it perform a service? Does it do something that has an end result? And if so, can be patentable. Now, a couple things to think about as well. One that more used to be patentable and it's really fallen out of vogue and is incredibly difficult is on a business method. In other words, just doing a business a certain way, conducting a business, offering good customer service, or doing a, training this way, or, having your employees do something a certain way is very difficult to patent. It's not impossible, but it's incredibly difficult. Another question that often comes up is on the software side is, can software be patented? And the short answer is yes, but there are a bit more requirements when you get into software. And the main one is that you can't just take something that somebody does in their head or on pen and paper and, put that on a computer, put it on the phone, or put it on an electronic device, do the same thing and try and get a patent on it. You can't take 2 + 2 equals 4. Everybody's done that in their head or in pen and paper. All you do is put it on a computer and say, hey, look, I did it on a computer. Now it's, now I should get a patent. You're not able to do that. But if your software does something, it takes inputs, it does analytics, it provides an end result, it does something where it's improving on that, where it does need to be tied to that technology in order to do it, you can absolutely get software. So that's kind of, if I were to take the reverse of your answer, what's not patentable or those few things. Everything else is really a pretty fair open field. You can't, now with that, you can't patent something that somebody else has done or just an obvious variation of them. But beyond that, it's a pretty open field, and it allows you to really get a patent on, as long as it performs a functionality and has a utility to it. Field's pretty wide open.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the podcast. And if you Eric, or anybody else in the audience ever has any questions on intellectual property, again, you can just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time to chat. Always happy to help out. Otherwise, as we wrap up, I wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks so much.